My name is Lois Harrison, and I'm 71 years old. 2 weeks ago, I drove to my daughter Maya's house to surprise her and my wife Evelyn. I was halfway up the porch steps, hand raised to knock, when a man I had never seen before bolted out of the house next door, waving his arms. "Stop," he shouted. "Don't go in. I just called 911." My blood ran cold. 5 minutes later, the police were kicking in my daughter's front door. What they found inside, what I saw, shattered my entire life. But the most horrifying discovery wasn't the blood on the floor. It was the truth that my neighbor revealed, a truth that proved the monster I'd been fighting wasn't the monster at all. Before you hear the rest of the story, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And please like and subscribe if you've ever learned that the person you trusted least was the only one telling the truth. I didn't even have time to process the man's words before the sound of sirens tore through the quiet suburban afternoon. He was an older black man, built solid like he'd spent time in the service, and his eyes were wide with urgency. He had a strong grip on my arm, holding me back on the sidewalk. "You can't go in there, sir," he said, his voice a low rumble. "I'm telling you, it's bad." My heart hammered against my ribs. "That's my daughter's house. My wife is in there. Evelyn." I tried to pull free, but he held fast. "The police are 2 seconds away. Let them handle it." His name, I'd later learn, was Henderson. He lived right next door. "What did you hear?" I demanded, my voice cracking. "What did you hear?" He looked back at the house, his face grim. "It started about 10 minutes ago, yelling loud. A man's voice, then a woman's, then a crash like a heavy piece of furniture going over and glass shattering. Then the woman screamed. Not just a yell, but a real scream, the kind you only hear once. He looked me dead in the eye. She pleaded, "Please stop. You're hurting her." Then it went quiet, dead quiet. That's when I called. My mind was spinning. Hurting her. Hurting who? Maya or Evelyn? My wife was 69 years old, a gentle soul. The thought of anyone laying a hand on her, it made me see red. The sirens were deafening now. I knew just as sure as I was standing there who was responsible. Jason, my daughter's husband. I had never trusted that man, not from the day Mia brought him home. He was white from a wealthy family, and he had this smirk, like he was always in on a joke the rest of us weren't smart enough to get. He managed some kind of investment fund, drove a car that cost more than my first house, and always talked down to me and Evelyn. He'd call me Lou instead of Mr. Harrison or Dad. He'd pat me on the shoulder like I was a child. I'm a retired city planner. I helped design the very streets we were standing on. I am not a child. Evelyn, bless her heart, always saw the good in people. "He's just nervous. Lou," she'd say, "he's trying to fit in." But I knew better. I saw the way he looked at Maya, like she was another one of his possessions. And Maya, she just faded. My vibrant, strong-willed daughter became quiet, agreeable, always looking to him for approval. 2 weeks ago, Evelyn had driven here from our home in Atlanta to stay with them. The official reason was that Maya had a miscarriage. She needed her mother. It felt thin to me. Maya sounded off on the phone, strained. Evelyn, too. In our last call, Evelyn's voice was tight. "Everything is fine, Louis. Just, just let me handle this. Maya needs me. Handle what I'd wanted to ask." But Evelyn was a private woman. I trusted her. Now standing on this sidewalk, My trust felt like stupidity. I should have come sooner. I should have trusted my gut. That miscarriage story was a lie. This was something else. This was Jason. Two squad cars screeched to a halt, cutting off the street. Two officers, a man and a woman, jumped out, guns drawn, but pointed down. What's the situation? The male officer barked at Henderson. Henderson pointed, heard a violent altercation. Glass breaking. Woman screamed for help. No sound since. The officers moved up the walkway, stacking on either side of the front door. This is the Atlanta PD. Open the door. The male officer shouted, "Silence." My heart felt like it was going to explode. I pushed past Henderson, ignoring his protest. My wife is in there. Evelyn Harrison. My daughter Maya. The female officer put a hand up to stop me. "Sir, stay back. We need you to stay on the lawn. That's my family." I roared. The officer shouted again. "Police, open the door now, or we're coming in." Nothing. Just a terrible, heavy silence from inside the house. "Okay, breach it," the male officer said. He stepped back and slammed his heavy boot just beside the doorknob. The wood splintered, but the deadbolt held. Again. He kicked again. The frame cracked. On the third kick, the door flew open, slamming against the inside wall with a bang that echoed my own heartbeat. "Clear," the officers yelled, disappearing inside. One going left. One going right. I couldn't wait. I didn't care what they said. I ran past the officer on the porch. Henderson, right behind me. "Sir, I told you to wait." But I was already in the foyer. The smell hit me first. Something coppery, metallic, blood. The house was a wreck. A tall floor lamp was shattered, its shade crumpled. A heavy oak chair was on its side. Glass from what looked like a picture frame was scattered across the hardwood floor. "Evelyn," I screamed. "Maya, in here." The female officer's voice came from the living room just past the staircase. I ran toward the sound, and then I saw her. My world stopped. It just ceased to exist. Evelyn, my Evelyn. She was lying at the bottom of the stairs. Her body was twisted at an angle that bodies shouldn't be. Her eyes were open, vacant, staring at the ceiling. A dark, spreading pool of blood haloed her gray hair on the light tile floor. Oh God. No, 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 no. I think I said it out loud. I don't know. My legs gave out. I stumbled, catching myself on the wall. This wasn't real. This was a nightmare. I was going to wake up in my own bed in Atlanta, and Evelyn would be there, warm and safe, beside me. But the copper smell was too strong. The silence was too loud. I stumbled past the officer, my mind refusing to process what my eyes were seeing. The living room was a scene of chaos. A tall, elegant floor lamp, one Evelyn had picked out, was smashed, its shade crumpled like a wad of paper. A heavy oak chair was on its side as if it had been thrown. Shards of glass from a shattered picture frame crunched under my shoes. But it was the silence that was wrong. The air was thick and heavy, and it smelled of something metallic, something coppery. Then I saw her. My world didn't just stop. It evaporated. At the bottom of the staircase, on the cold beige tile that Maya and Jason had been so proud of, lay my wife, my Evelyn. She was on her back, her body twisted at an angle that wasn't natural. Her eyes were open, staring blankly at the chandelier above. A dark, glistening pool of blood was spreading slowly from beneath her head. I don't think I made a sound. I couldn't. My lungs had turned to solid stone. This wasn't real. This was a nightmare. I was back in Atlanta asleep, and I would wake up and Evelyn would be there beside me, smelling faintly of cocoa butter and books. But the coppery smell was too strong. Her hand was outstretched, palm up her fingers, slightly curled. I saw the simple gold wedding band I had placed on her finger 45 years ago. It was still gleaming. Evelyn, I whispered. The voice that came out wasn't mine. It was a dry, cracking sound, like an old leaf scraping the pavement. This wasn't just a fall. Evelyn was clumsy sometimes. Sure, she might trip, but she wouldn't shatter a lamp. She wouldn't overturn a chair. This was violence. This was rage. The female officer was suddenly kneeling beside her, her fingers pressing into Evelyn's neck. "I've got a pulse," she yelled. "It's faint, but she's breathing. Get a bus rolling now." Breathing. The word was a hammer blow. The stone in my chest cracked. I surged forward, my knees hitting the hard tile floor, the impact jarring my old bones. "Evie! Evie! Baby, I'm here." I reached for her hand, the one with the ring. "Sir, don't touch her," the officer commanded. "Paramedics are on the way. We can't move her." I knelt there, helpless, just 2 feet away from the love of my life. I stared at the blood matting her beautiful gray hair. I stared at the unnatural angle of her head. Who? Who could do this? Who could do this to her? Evelyn was the kindest soul I had ever known. She baked for the neighbors. She volunteered at the library. She couldn't hurt a fly. My eyes stinging with tears I refused to let fall, scanned the room again. The broken lamp, the overturned chair, and then my gaze traveled up the staircase. I hadn't seen her. My daughter, my Maya. She was crushed into the corner at the top of the stairs on the second floor landing. She was huddled against the wall, her knees pulled tight to her chest, her face buried in her hands. Her entire body was shaking, racked with violent sobs. "Maya," I cried out, my voice finally finding its power. "Maya, what happened? Are you hurt?" She lifted her head. Her face was a grotesque mask of terror and tears. Mascara ran in black rivers down her cheeks. She didn't look at me. She looked past me, staring at something in the room. Then her arm shot out her finger, trembling as she pointed not at me, but at the man standing just a few feet away from her at the top of the landing. It was him!" She screamed a sound so raw and painful it ripped through the house. He did it. He pushed her. He pushed Mama. I followed her trembling finger. My head snapped up, and there he was, Jason. He was just standing there by the railing, staring down at the scene below. He was still holding his cell phone in his right hand. He looked dazed. His expensive dress shirt was torn at the collar and his face. He attacked Mama. Maya shrieked again. I saw it clearly then, even from 15 feet below. Bright, angry red scratches, 3 of them running from his left temple down his cheek, disappearing under his jaw, defensive wounds. My God, Evelyn, my 69-year-old wife had fought him. She had fought for her life against this animal, the man I never trusted, the man I let into my family. "Police, show me your hands." The male officer roared his gun, now unholstered and raised. He was already taking the stairs 2 at a time. Jason didn't even seem to register him. He just stood there, his mouth opening and closing as if he was trying to speak. But no sound came out. He looked completely and utterly stunned. The officer didn't hesitate. He slammed Jason against the wall face first. "You have the right to remain silent." "No," Jason finally whispered. It was the first sound he'd made. No. Shut up, the officer commanded, yanking Jason's arms behind his back, the sharp click of the handcuffs echoing in the stairwell. That sound snapped me out of my shock. The ice in my veins turned to fire, a pure, cleansing rage, the kind I hadn't felt in decades, surged through me. You! I roared, pushing myself up from the floor. You worthless piece of trash. You did this. I lunged for the stairs, my only thought to get my hands on him, to make him pay. But Henderson, the neighbor, was suddenly there, grabbing me in a bear hug. Lewis, no. Let the police handle this. Don't you do something you'll regret. I fought against his grip, tears of pure fury finally blinding me. He killed her. He killed my wife. I didn't. I didn't. Jason started yelling, finally finding his voice as they dragged him down the stairs. He was twisting his eyes wild, looking not at Maya, but right at me. Mr. Harrison Lewis, please, it wasn't me. Check her laptop. Check Ma's laptop. His words were frantic, desperate, but Mia's screams drowned him out. Liar, she howled from the top of the stairs. You monster. You tried to kill her. The officers dragged Jason through the foyer and out the splintered front door. Please, he yelled one last time. The laptop. The front door slammed shut. I was left in the ruined living room, my chest heaving, my body shaking. Henderson still had a firm hand on my shoulder. Maya was sobbing uncontrollably, collapsing onto the upstairs carpet. And my Evelyn was still lying on the floor, so terribly still as paramedics finally rushed in with a stretcher. Check her laptop. What kind of nonsense was that? The man was a cornered rat trying to bite anyone he could. My daughter was the victim. My wife was the victim. And he was the monster. I knew it. I knew it the moment I first laid eyes on him. The fluorescent lights of the hospital waiting room hummed. It was the only sound, a low, agonizing buzz that drilled right into my skull. It had been 6 hours. 6 hours since I watched them wheel Evelyn through those double doors, her face pale, her beautiful hair still matted with blood. The doctor, a young man who looked barely old enough to shave, had used words I couldn't hold on to. Severe cranial trauma, pressure on the brain, medically induced coma. He spoke, but all I could hear was that hum. I was sitting on a hard plastic chair that felt like it was molded from ice. Beside me, my daughter Maya was a crumpled heap. She hadn't stopped crying. She was using a pile of rough hospital tissues, her body shaking with silent sobs. I put my arm around her, pulling her close. It's going to be okay, baby girl, I whispered, but the words felt like ash in my mouth. My wife was in surgery, and the man who put her there was my son-in-law. Dad, she finally whispered, her voice raw from crying. I have to tell you, I'm so ashamed. I held her tighter, my old heart aching for her. It's not your fault. Maya, none of this is your fault. But it is, she insisted, pulling back just enough to look at me, her eyes bloodshot and pleading. I I let this happen. I hid it from you. I hid it from Mom. Hid what, baby? She took a ragged breath. Jason, it's a sickness. Dad, a gambling sickness. The word hung in the air between us. Gambling. It clicked. It made a terrible, perfect sense. That expensive watch I'd seen on his wrist last month, the new sports car he'd claimed, was just a company lease. That arrogant, entitled smirk he always wore. It wasn't the confidence of success. It was the bluff of a desperate, broken man. I didn't know how bad it was until about a month ago. She continued the words spilling out of her in a torrent. I found statements, online accounts. He'd lost everything. Dad, he'd drained our savings account. The whole $80,000. $80,000. I felt the blood drain from my face. That was the money Evelyn and I had given them for a down payment. Our money. Money we had saved over 40 years of hard work gone. I confronted him. She sobbed, her body shaking. He promised he'd stop. He swore he'd get help. He begged me not to tell you. He said he was embarrassed to face you, that he couldn't stand for you to think he was a failure. That too made perfect sense. I had never hidden my disapproval of him. Of course, he'd be afraid of me. And the miscarriage? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The reason your mother came down here. Maya's face crumpled, and she looked away, her shame palpable. There was no miscarriage. Dad. What? I lied. She whispered. I was so scared. I was desperate. I called Mom and told her that because I needed her. I needed someone. I was terrified of what Jason would do when he realized the money was completely, finally gone. I didn't know who else to turn to. So, Evelyn had walked into a trap. My wife, the fixer, the one who always protected her children, had walked straight into a lion's den. She's so smart. Dad, Maya cried, hiding her face in her hands. She's smarter than me. She must have seen the bank statements I'd hidden in my desk. She found the notices from the credit card companies. This afternoon, while I was upstairs in the shower, she confronted him, and I could picture it perfectly. My Evelyn, 69 years old, but with a spine of steel, standing up to that arrogant boy. I heard them shouting. Maya cried. I ran downstairs. Mom was holding the bank statements. She was telling him he was a thief, that he had betrayed her trust, that she was going to call the police. And in what Maya tell me? He snapped. He grabbed her arm. He yelled at her to mind her own business. Mom tried to get to the phone and he shoved her. He shoved her dad hard with both hands. She flew backward. She hit the bottom stair and she didn't get up. She dissolved into hysterical sobs, clinging to my shirt. Her story finished. I held her, but my body was rigid. My mind was painting the picture over and over. My wife, my strong, brave Evelyn lying broken on the floor. All because of him, because of that leech I had led into my family. I must have sat there for another hour, just stewing in my own rage, rocking my daughter while she cried. The hum of the lights was the only sound. Then a new voice. Mr. Harrison. I looked up. A man in a tired suit was standing there. He looked like he'd seen too much of the world. I'm Detective Miller, he said, flashing a badge. I need to ask you and your daughter a few questions. Your wife, Mrs. Harrison, she's out of surgery. She's stable, but she's in intensive care. She's not awake. Okay, I said, helping Mia sit up. The detective looked at Mia, then at me. Your daughter gave a preliminary statement at the scene. I just want to clarify a few things. You both stated that your son-in-law, Jason Powell, pushed Mrs. Harrison down the stairs during an argument. That's right, I said firmly. My daughter saw it all. Detective Miller nodded slowly, pulling out a small notebook. The thing is, Mr. Harrison, we have a conflicting statement. My brow furrowed. Conflicting from who? From Jason? No. Sir, from your neighbor, a Mr. Henderson, the man who called 911. What about him? Well, he's a veteran. Says he's got sharp hearing. He's very clear on what he heard. He says he heard the argument. Yes, but he says he distinctly heard a man's voice, presumably Mr. Powell, shouting, Maya, stop. And, Maya, you're hurting her. He also says he heard him yell, Give me the phone. I have to call 911. I stared at him. That's impossible. He's confused. He must have heard it backward. Maybe, the detective said, his eyes unreadable. But there's something else. We ran Mr. Powell's background. He's clean. Not even a speeding ticket. No history of violence. Nothing. He paused and his gaze shifted to Maya, who had suddenly gone very, very still. Your daughter, on the other hand, she has a sealed juvenile record, an assault charge from when she was 15. She broke another girl's arm in a fight. I stood up. I stood. The ice in my veins was back. Now you listen to me, detective. Are you really standing there trying to blame my daughter? My daughter, who just watched her mother almost get murdered. That was 20 years ago. She was a child. Kids get into fights. Sir, no. I cut him off, my voice dangerously low. You're just what? Trying to muddy the water. That man, Jason, is a gambler who stole $80,000 from my family. He attacked my wife when she confronted him. My daughter saw it. I saw the scratches on his face. My wife fought back. What more do you need? The scratches? Yes, the detective said unfazed. We're looking into those. The neighbor is an old man, I said, dismissing him with a wave of my hand. He's probably half deaf. He heard what he wanted to hear. My daughter is the victim here. So, you go and do your job and make sure that monster stays locked up. The detective held my gaze for a long moment. Understood. Mr. Harrison, we'll be in touch. He turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing down the sterile hallway. I sat back down, my heart pounding with anger. How dare he? How dare he try to twist this? I looked at Maya. She was trembling again, looking smaller than ever. Dad, she whispered. He thinks I did it. No, wait, he doesn't, I said, pulling her back into my arms, my resolve hardening like concrete. He's just a lazy cop looking for an easy out. Don't you worry, baby girl. I'm here. I won't let anyone hurt you. I believe you. And I did. At that moment, I believed her with every fiber of my being. 2 days later, I was back at the house. The yellow crime scene tape was still stretched across the splintered doorframe. It felt wrong walking back in. It felt like trespassing in my own daughter's life. But Evelyn was still unconscious in that silent, sterile room. And the nurse said she needed her own things. A robe, her toiletries, her worn leather slippers. Small comforts in a world that had suddenly become hard and cold. I walked past the dark stain on the tile, my eyes fixed forward, refusing to look at it. As I stepped back outside, my hands full with a small overnight bag, I saw him, the neighbor Henderson. He was sitting on his own porch just watching me. He didn't wave. He just stood up slowly, a man moving with the stiff precision of old injuries, and walked across the lawn that separated our two houses. Mr. Harrison, he said, his voice respectful but firm. He stopped about 10 feet away. Mr. Henderson. I nodded. I want to thank you for what you did calling the police. You probably saved my wife's life. He just looked at me, his eyes sharp. Sir, I spoke with the detective. He came by this morning. Detective Miller. Yes, he spoke to us at the hospital. I was tired. I wanted this conversation to be over. I wanted to get back to Evelyn. I don't think he believed me. Mr. Harrison, Henderson said, and I have a feeling I need you to believe me. A knot of irritation tightened in my stomach. I was grieving. My family was shattered. I didn't have time for this old man's stories. Believe what I said. My voice sharper than I intended. That you heard wrong. I was just at the hospital. My daughter Maya, she told me everything. That man Jason, he's a gambler. He stole $80,000 from my family. He attacked my wife when she confronted him. Henderson didn't flinch. He just stood there solid as an old oak tree. Sir, with all due respect, I've lived next door to your daughter and her husband for 3 years. I'm a widower. I'm home most of the time. My windows are open. I know what I hear. He took a step closer. And I need to tell you, sir, I spent 20 years in the United States Army Signal Corps. My ears, my hearing, it's the only part of me that still works perfectly. I can tell you what kind of bird is in that tree just by its call. And I can tell you who does the yelling in that house. I gripped the overnight bag, the plastic handle digging into my palm. What are you trying to say, Mr. Henderson? I'm saying, he said, his voice dropping low, that in 3 years I've maybe heard Mr. Powell raise his voice twice, once during a football game, once when he dropped something heavy in the garage. But your daughter Maya, sir, she screams. She screams every week, usually Thursdays. I reckon that's when the bills come due. My blood ran cold. This was the exact opposite of what Maya said. It's always about money. Henderson continued, shaking his head. Where is it? Jason. You promised me. Jason, I can't live like this. And he's always the one I hear trying to calm her down. It's okay, Maya. It's okay. We'll figure it out. Just calm down. That's the dynamic. Sir. It has always been the dynamic that I stared at him, my mind scrambling. This was wrong. This was a lie. The detective had said this and I had dismissed it, but hearing it from this man, this soldier, it felt different. That night, I said, my voice shaking, you told the police. I told them exactly what I heard. Henderson interrupted, his eyes locking onto mine. And it wasn't Thursday screaming. This was panic. I was in my yard right by that fence. I heard your wife's voice. She was upset. She said something like, Maya, no. That's madness. Then I heard the crash, the glass breaking, the lamp. I guess. He took a deep breath like he was bracing himself. And then, sir, I heard Jason, and he wasn't calm. He was terrified. He shouted, and I mean shouted. He yelled, Maya, look what you did. You're hurting her. Then he yelled it again. Maya, get away from her. My mind just stopped. You're hurting her. And then Henderson said, his voice barely a whisper. I heard him yell, give me the phone. I have to call 911. He let the words hang in the air between us. I couldn't speak. I just stood there frozen. This was impossible. Maya was the victim. Jason was the monster. I saw the scratches. Sir. Henderson continued. That was maybe 30 seconds before the big fall. I heard the scuffle. Then I heard the sound that a body makes. A heavy, awful sound at the bottom of the stairs. And the only person I heard screaming, he pushed her, was your daughter. After it was all over, I must have staggered because Henderson put a hand out to steady me. That's not what my daughter said. I whispered the world tilting beneath my feet. I know, sir, Henderson said, his face etched with a sad, hard pity. That's why I'm talking to you. I'm just an old soldier, and I've seen friendly fire before. I've seen people get confused in the fog of war. But I also know when someone is lying to cover their flank. He looked me square in the eye. Mr. Harrison, I truly believe you are protecting the wrong person. I drove away from my daughter's house, but I couldn't go back to the hospital. I couldn't go back to Evelyn. Not yet. I just parked on a quiet side street, the little overnight bag sitting on the passenger seat, mocking me with its simple domestic purpose. Henderson's words were a poison. They had seeped into my bloodstream and were now working their way to my heart. I think you are protecting the wrong person. It was nonsense. It had to be. My daughter was a victim. I saw her. I held her while she sobbed. My wife was a victim. I saw her lying in a pool of her own blood, but my mind kept pulling me back. The detective, the juvenile record, and Henderson's certainty. Maya, stop. You're hurting her. Why would he lie? And then, like a key turning in a rusty lock, I heard Jason's voice again, not the arrogant man I despised, but the desperate man being dragged out in handcuffs. Check her laptop. Check Maya's laptop. At the time, I dismissed it as the frantic raving of a guilty man, a pathetic attempt to shift blame to muddy the water. But what if it wasn't? What if it was the only true thing said that day? I felt a profound bone-deep sickness. I was a city planner for 42 years. My job was to see the foundation beneath the facade. I dealt with facts. I dealt with blueprints. My entire life was built on looking at the structure of things. And right now, the foundation of my family was cracking. My heart was telling me one thing, but my gut was telling me I was a 71-year-old fool who had been staring at the wrong blueprint all along. I couldn't go back to that hospital until I knew I needed facts. The next morning, I drove downtown. I didn't go to my old family lawyer. I couldn't. I went to a new firm, a name a colleague from the city planning commission had given me years ago, Angela Russo. She had a reputation for being a shark in a silk blouse. She didn't deal in family sentiment. She dealt in assets fraud and the cold, hard truth. I needed that. I walked into her sharp, modern office. I must have looked like what I was, a grieving, broken old man. Ms. Russo, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. My son-in-law was just arrested for the attempted murder of my wife. My daughter Maya is the primary witness. She's a wreck. I paused, letting the lie settle in the air. With her husband in jail and her mother in a coma, she's not capable of handling her affairs. She needs help. I need you to protect her. I need you to get a clear picture of her finances to secure her assets. Her husband was a gambler. I need to know how bad the damage is. It was the perfect cover. A concerned father protecting his traumatized daughter's estate. Angela Russo just nodded, her eyes sharp, analytical. I'll need your daughter to sign a power of attorney giving us temporary access to her financial records and personal devices. She'll sign anything I put in front of her right now, I said, and she did. That afternoon at the hospital, Maya signed the papers without even reading them, her tears staining the ink. Thank you, Daddy, she'd whispered, clinging to my hand. You're the only one I can count on. The words felt like a splinter of glass being pushed into my heart. It took Angela Russo less than 24 hours. My phone rang the next morning. It was her, Lewis. She said. She didn't use Mr. You need to come to my office now. The line went dead. I sat in that same stark modern chair. Angela didn't offer me coffee. She didn't offer condolences. She simply slid a thick stack of bank statements across her polished glass desk. You hired me to find out how much damage your daughter's gambler husband did, she said, her voice flat. devoid of emotion. You were right about the damage, Louis. You were just wrong about who was holding the hammer. I stared at the papers. My hands were shaking. They were withdrawals from the joint savings account. Dozens of them. 10,000, 15,000, 5,000, all transferred to offshore websites. Sites with names like Slots Royale and Vegas Palace Online. A total of $80,000 gone in 6 months. This, this is what he did, I whispered. No, Angela said. I cross-referenced the timestamps. Every single transfer was made from an IP address registered to your daughter's personal laptop. Jason Powell was verifiably at his office in documented meetings during every single one of these transfers. This wasn't Jason Lewis. This was Maya. No, I said it came out as a croak. No, that's not possible. She told me he was the gambler. Angela leaned forward, her eyes merciless. She lied, and that Lewis is not the only lie. You told me your wife was visiting because your daughter had suffered a miscarriage. I nodded, my mouth too dry to speak. I pulled the local hospital and OBGYN records for the last 6 months. Your daughter was never pregnant. There was no miscarriage. She was never a patient. The room tilted. The air hummed. The miscarriage was a lie, a fabrication, a cold, calculated maneuver. Then, why? I stammered. Why did Evelyn go to her? You tell me. Louise's, Angela said. Why does a compulsive gambler who just lost $80,000, the exact amount you gave them for a down payment, suddenly need her mother to visit? She was luring her. She was luring Evelyn there to get more money. My wife, my Evelyn, hadn't just stumbled into an argument. She had been summoned to her own execution. Angela wasn't finished. She spun her laptop monitor around to face me. Jason's frantic last words. She said, "Check the laptop." He was right. You should have checked. On the screen was an email chain between Maya and Jason dated 1 week before the attack. My vision was swimming. Angela read the words out loud for me, her voice cutting through the silent room. It's from Jason to Maya. She said, Maya, I can't do this anymore. I just checked the joint account. It's empty. You promised me you'd stopped. You promised me we're going to lose the house. Maya, we're going to lose everything. I put my head in my hands. I couldn't breathe. Scroll down. I managed to say, Angela clicked. Maya's reply, it's just a setback. Jason, I can win it back. I just need a little more. Your parents have money. Or just ask your dad. Just don't tell mine. Please. Jason, don't tell them. I can fix this. And then the final email. The one that sealed all of our fates from Jason. No more lies. Maya, I am done. I am done covering for you. I am done watching you destroy yourself. I'm calling your parents. I'm telling them everything. You need help. And if you won't get it, I'm going to get it for you. I love you, but I won't be your accomplice anymore. Angela looked up from the screen, her gaze pinning me to the chair. That email was sent at 1:17 p.m. on Tuesday. Lewis, your neighbor's 911 call was at 4:30 p.m. That was the argument your wife walked into. He wasn't attacking her. He was trying to get help. He was trying to tell the truth. I left Angela Russo's office, but I couldn't drive. I couldn't go anywhere. I walked out onto the busy Atlanta street, and the noise of the traffic, the horns, the chatter of people on their lunch breaks, it all just hit me like a physical wave. I stumbled over to a concrete bench at a bus stop and just put my head in my hands. I was wrong. It wasn't a small mistake. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a catastrophic failure of judgment. I, Lewis Harrison, a man who had prided himself on seeing the structure of things, a man who planned city grids, had failed to see the rot in the foundation of his own family. I had let my prejudice, my simple, ugly bias against Jason, blind me completely. I felt sick, physically ill. I thought about Jason sitting in a jail cell right now. I thought about the scratches on his face, the ones I had pointed to as proof of his guilt. My God, Evelyn must have done that, or Maya. He had been attacked, and I had been part of the mob that threw the stones. He had been trying to protect my wife. He had been trying to get help. He was the only one telling the truth, and I, in my arrogant blindness, had helped my daughter, the real monster, lock him away. The shame was so thick, I felt like I was choking on it. My phone buzzed in my pocket, making me jump. The vibration felt like an electric shock. I fumbled for it, my hands shaking. It was the hospital. Mr. Harrison, a nurse's voice. Your wife. She's waking up. She's out of the coma. The doctor thinks you should come. I don't remember the drive. I don't remember parking. I just remember bursting through the automatic doors of the ICU, my heart pounding a frantic, terrified rhythm. When I got to her room, Maya was already there. She was sitting in the chair by the bed, her back to the door. She was holding Evelyn's hand, stroking her hair. Evelyn's eyes were open, just barely. They were fluttering, filmed over with medication, confused, trying to focus on the ceiling. Mama, Maya was saying, her voice thick and soft. Mama, you're back. You're awake. Oh, thank God. Evelyn made a small sound, a faint dry groan. Her eyes clouded with pain, tried to find the source of the voice. Shh, shh, it's okay. Maya coo-pooed, squeezing her hand. You're safe now. I'm right here. Dad's here too. We're all here. I stood in the doorway, my feet bolted to the floor. I was frozen watching the performance. It was masterful. She was the loving, devoted daughter, her voice trembling with what anyone else would mistake for relief. Evelyn's eyes slowly moved, finally landing on Mia's face. We got him, Mama, Mia whispered, leaning in so close her hair brushed the pillow. He can't hurt us anymore. Jason, he's in jail. The police took him away. He's gone. You're safe. We're all safe now. I watched the words hit Evelyn. I watched my wife, weak and battered, try to process this new information. Maya was reinforcing the lie, cementing it, using Evelyn's vulnerable, foggy state to build her false narrative before I could get to her. But I was watching my wife's face. I know Evelyn. I have known her for 45 years. I know the way her eyes crinkle when she smiles. I know the way her jaw sets when she's angry. And I know what she looks like when she's afraid. I was expecting to see relief. I was expecting peace, a softening, a release of tension. That is not what I saw. As Maya spoke, Evelyn's eyes didn't soften. They widened just a fraction. But I saw it. I saw the monitor beside her bed, the little green number tracking her heart rate. It had been steady beeping quietly at 72. When Maya said, Jason's in jail, it jumped. 78, 84, 90. It wasn't relief. It was panic. Her gaze shifted, moving past Maya, searching the room frantically. She wasn't looking at Maya. She was looking for something or someone. She wasn't reacting like a victim who had just been told her attacker was captured. She was reacting like a hostage who had just learned her only rescuer was gone. Maya, lost in her own performance, didn't notice. She was too busy playing her part. It's okay. Mama, just rest. I've got you. I had to get her out of that room. I stepped inside. forcing my voice to sound gentle, normal. Maya, baby girl, you look exhausted. You've been here for hours. She looked up, startled, her eyes wide. She quickly composed her face back into a mask of tear-streaked grief. Dad, I can't leave her. You need coffee, I said. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a command. You haven't eaten a thing since this morning. You're no good to her if you collapse. Go. Go to the cafeteria. Get a sandwich. Get something hot. I'll sit with her. I promise I won't leave her side for a second. She hesitated. Her eyes darted from me to Evelyn. She didn't want to leave. She didn't want to leave her mother alone with me. Not now. Go. I said a little more force in my voice. That's an order, young lady. I'll call you if anything changes. Go. She finally relented, giving Evelyn's hand one last tight squeeze. I'll be right back. Mama, I love you. She walked past me, sniffing, still the perfect picture of the devoted daughter. The moment the door clicked shut, I moved to the bedside. The room was heavy with the smell of antiseptic and the quiet, steady beep of the heart monitor. I took Evelyn's hand. Her skin was so cold, so papery. Evelyn, I whispered, leaning in close. Evie, it's me. It's Louis. You're safe. I am here. Her eyes found mine. They were filled with a desperate, terrifying urgency. Evie, what happened? I whispered. I need the truth. I know about Maya. I know about the gambling. I saw the laptop. I know Jason was trying to get help. Just tell me what happened. Her lips cracked and began to tremble. A small dry sound came out, a little click. She tried to swallow. It's okay. I soothed my heart breaking. It's okay. Just whisper. I'm right here. I'm listening. Her eyes filled with tears, not the performance tears of her daughter, but real hot tears of terror. They welled up and spilled over, running down her temples into her matted hair. Eh, she whispered. Her voice was a dry rasp, barely air. What, Evie? What was it? It was Maya. She breathed. The words were a tiny puff of air. My heart shattered. I know, baby. I know she lied. Was it just the money? Did she just panic? Evelyn shook her head. A tiny, agonizing movement that I could see cost her everything. The tears came faster. She found what? Evelyn? What did she find? Her gaze was locked on mine. She was using every last ounce of her strength, every bit of life she had left to push the words out. She found my will. The word hit me like a physical blow. The will. Our will. What about it? It all goes to her anyway. We signed it years ago. No, Evelyn whispered. Her eyes closed for a moment as if in agony. No, not my will. My mind seized on that one word. Will. It made no sense. What are you talking about? Evie, I whispered, my voice rough. Our will. We did that together. We did that 20 years ago. It's simple. Everything. Everything we have goes to Maya. She knows that. What? What does our will have to do with anything? I was confused. Was the head trauma making her delirious? Was she mixing things up? I squeezed her hand gently. Baby, it's okay. The will is fine. It's all taken care of. It all goes to Maya. It's fine. Evelyn's eyes, those beautiful brown eyes I had known my entire adult life, stared at me with a terrifying clarity. The fog was gone. This was not delirium. This was truth. A single tear rolled down her temple. No, she whispered, the sound scraping her dry throat. No, Louis, not our will, my will, my will. The words hung in the sterile, beeping air. I didn't understand. Your will. We were married. We have one will, one life. What are you talking about? Evelyn tried to take a breath. It hitched in her chest. I saw a flash of pain cross her face. Please, Evie, don't talk if it hurts. I must. She insisted. You don't know. She closed her eyes for a moment, gathering what little strength she had. When my Aunt Josephine died 20 years ago, remember? I nodded. Of course, the funeral in Chicago. You were gone for a week. She left you that little porcelain music box. Maya used to love it. She She didn't just leave me the music box. Louis, Evelyn whispered. She left me everything. I frowned. Everything. Evie, your aunt was a seamstress. She lived in a tiny apartment. What are you? She lived like that by choice. Evelyn breathed. Her husband, my uncle, he had invested years ago smartly. When he died, he left it all to her, and she left it all to me. She was the only one who knew my secret. Secret. Evelyn, you're scaring me. What are you talking about? Her eyes met mine.